Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello Scott.
Josh, my friend, let me tell you some things that you already know and have known twice over, but now they're officially confirmed, or at least as far as a Bloomberg report goes, because we've known for the longest time that a Switch Pro was coming. For a little while it was called a Nintendo Switch OLED, then it was the Super Nintendo Switch. Now we're sort of back to the Nintendo Switch Pro, but there's a lot more specifics this time around. In regards to, there's a few different things I'm going to break down. One is the new 7-inch OLED screen on the Switch itself, which makes it bigger than the regular Switch. So the Switch that you have right now, if you have the basic version, is a 6.2-inch diagonal screen, or it's a 5.5-inch screen if you have a Switch Lite. This one will be a bit bigger. Obviously, it's going to be, if they go with the OLED tech, it means it'll be easier on battery strain, so it should last a bit longer. And apparently the version of the OLED, the glass or whatever, the version that they're going for is more in line with TVs as opposed to tablets and phones. Apparently that's a cheaper alternative that apparently works out better. Next thing down is that it's a 720p resolution when handheld, which, you know, I think a lot of people's initial reaction to that is like, oh my god, it's not, it could be a lot higher. But Jeff Grubb sort of weighed in on this and just sort of like, you know, brought up some calculations from this particular website that we'll share a screenshot of, saying that, you know, if you go with a 720p resolution, you know, at about 7 inches wide, that becomes a Retina display if you hold it at about 16 inches. So it's not like, you know, if they went for 1080p, it's going to burn the battery out. It seems like 720 on a handheld screen of 7 inches big is going to be more than enough clarity, balancing it off or pairing it off with battery, which makes a lot more sense. One of the bigger things is that it's going to be docked, going to be able to do 4K resolution when docked. There's no mention of targeted frame rate, so my assumption is that it'll actually be 30, just because the Switch itself right now struggles to do 30 at 1080p, let alone 4K. But yeah, the report notes that they're aiming for 4K ultra high definition graphics when docked. But yeah, there's no word on targeted frame rates. There is a little bit more, but what do you think of all this?
Very good, very nice, very enjoyable stuff, to be honest. I mean, a 7-inch screen, 7 inches, a pretty decent size, if you ask me, you know what I mean? So that's a nice little improvement. 720p, I'm not like massively disappointed by that at all, because when it comes to like the playing it handheld especially, I want the performance to be as high as possible rather than the resolution. If I want to play the games in the highest resolution possible, I'll play it on the TV, you know what I mean? That's what that mode is there for, in my mind anyway. And 720p is a nice trade-off to be able to play these games, these really, you know, quite expansive games in a lot of cases, handheld, at a high frame rate, a stable frame rate at least. I think that is worth the trade-off, because it'll still look really good anyway. Overall, I think it's quite promising. I wonder whether people will be a bit annoyed that it might not be as big of a step up as they are expecting. And when it comes to the frame rate on the like the docked versions of the games, I would have liked, you know, 4K 60, but I mean, we're just getting 4K 60 on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, so, you know, those brand new consoles, they are making that priority. So
I didn't used to be this guy, but when I looked at the news breaking, and my stupid little mind went, oh no, they're not going to be able to do 4K 60. And I didn't used to be that guy at all. I didn't used to care. But having played a lot of the PS5, having played a lot of the Series X, and getting used to 4K 60 as a new benchmark, or at least aiming for that, I don't just want 4K at 30. I can tell the difference now. I didn't used to be able to, but that stuff has infected my mind and I can't go back. Or it'll take a lot of playing those games at 30 FPS for that to become the new norm, and then I'll freak out again when I go back to 60, and that'll look weird. What I want is a 4K 60 benchmark, and I just doubt they're going to be able to hit it. But what's your sort of thoughts coming across from like playing a lot of PS5 stuff, and then could kind of like, would you choose the mode in any of those games on those consoles that lets you do 4K at 30?
Not anymore, and that's like been the biggest surprise since getting those machines, because before, for the longest time, like I always appreciated 60 when it was possible, especially in first-person shooters, you know, where you can really tell a difference. Like I always loved Call of Duty's like stable frame rate. That's a huge part of the game feel of that entire franchise. But for like third-person games and open world games, I was always one of those people who were like, it's fine, 30 frames per second for an action game like this, it's all right. And then we got the new machines, and you could start playing like Assassin's Creed or Spider-Man in 60 frames per second, and then I thought, okay, there's no coming back from this now, is there? This is like, this is what I'm expecting now, and it completely transforms how those games play in my mind, and how enjoyable they are to, you know, control, especially when you have full control of a character like Miles Morales and Spider-Man, or like an Evo in Assassin's Creed or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you know, if this was like Dream World, if I could have whatever I wanted, I'd want the Switch Pro, whatever it is, to play 4K 60 games, but at the same time, that would really increase the price of the machine, and this feels more like a half-step console like the PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X, rather than like an entire new generation for Nintendo, because the Switch doesn't necessarily have to go away anytime soon. It's still selling incredibly well. And this is going to be a nice bit of extra, power for the people who want it, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's easy to forget that we're going into the 4th year that the Switch has been on sale, and like I've said before, that like mine is very much falling apart. Like it just sounds like a broken fan. It's just sort of like the whole time. And so like I definitely need the upgrade, or I'm looking forward to it. Things to throw in as well is that they're aiming for a before Christmas release this year, not a specific month put down. But yeah, assumedly we'll have it by the end of this year. The report did note, or at least I found the report from last September 2020. This was another Bloomberg report with various third-party devs speaking to Bloomberg anonymously, saying that Nintendo had asked them to make their games 4K ready. So it seems like this has been in the works for a while, and assumedly whatever third-party titles will come to the Switch for the rest of this year will be ready to go 4K style on the new system, which is really good.
Yeah.
And the other thing to note, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but the company that Nintendo are partnering with to make the new screens is Samsung. The whole sort of like cheaper OLED style thing, closer in line with the TVs and everything. Their estimates are to produce around 1 million units a month, starting from, it was like about mid-year, sort of going into September and obviously rolling into the holiday period. So I don't know my console estimates. I know obviously the PS5, the series systems have been really hard to get. Nintendo, most of the time, manufacture scarcity. They love that. They love putting something on release for a little bit and then taking it away, both physically and digitally. The Mario 35th anniversary has just been taken off the digital storefront, or it will be very soon. But assumedly, 1 million units a month is enough to satiate some type of demand, but whether you can actually get one for Christmas, I guess, is up for debate. But you might still be trying to get a PS5 at this rate. So
well, that's the problem. I mean, it's cool that it might drop before the holidays. That is awesome, but I don't want it to become this kind of situation, Scott, when it's the end of 2021. We're going into another winter. Hopefully things are a bit better, but when it comes to like the console space, it's still hard to get hold of any of these machines, and then Nintendo drops a new one and it's like, I want it, but I can't get it. I don't think they do any kind of like manufactured scarcity with this one, even though they are known to have done that in the past, like you said, with Mario, with Amiibos, or with
the Wii's.
What were the mini consoles, like the SNES Mini and stuff like that? They were all the exact same thing. But if they're starting mid-year, if they're producing 1 million of these screens like a month or whatever, that should have enough stock for like the Christmas period, you would assume, especially because this isn't a generational step. It is just like one of those upgrades for people who want it, and like people like you whose old Switches have turned into a gigantic fan, or are still struggling with drift or whatever, and wanted something to look forward to. But yeah, hopefully we can stop doing these videos, to be honest, Scott, because we've been talking about the Switch Pro since like last year, and now we've had these 3 quick information drops within the past month. So it feels like there's finally some proper momentum building, and if the production is going to go ahead in June, hopefully soon we should see an official announcement, and hopefully pre-orders going up and stuff like that, and we get an eventual accurate release date that we can finally pin our hat on.
Yeah, we will absolutely do another video when it's actually released. If there's
100%.
If they confirm another inch has been added to the screen, we'll be back here talking about it again. We're not going to not get on this. But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below of a 4K ready Switch when docked. What do you think of all the other statistics for it? And would you actually get one, considering you only got one a few years ago? For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.